Okay, you're talking about riding the buggy into town.
This was mother when she went to high school. She drove the old Gale in the buggy, and yeah, when we I had a two-wheel cart that we used to drive old Babe to, and several stories about that.
How old were you when you had that?
Oh, we was probably in the 8th grade through the sophomore year. I mean.
And what happened with that?
Oh, we had a lot of fun with that. Joe Williams, we spent a lot of time with Joe, and he'd either be up at our house or we'd be down there. And so after I got this two-wheel cart, we'd run back and forth. And one day I was going to take him home. It was getting about dark. And, he said, "I'm going to have to go home." I said, "Well, let's get your baby up and I'll take you home in the cart." We'd go on there south of John's, south of the home place there, and sometime the wheel come off that cart. We'd go along there pretty good, pretty good lick, and the wheel come off of that cart, and Joe was sitting on that side, and when the wheel come off, well, it poured him out in the ditch. And I just got old Babe stopped, and I said, "Joe, you hurt?" "No, I ain't hurt." He got up and brushed himself off and started walking down the road. I said, "Well, where you going?" He said, "I'm going home." I said, I ain't going to put up with that kind of stuff. Said, "You flew me out of there intentionally." I said, "Well, come in and help me find this lug nut for this wheel." I got the wheel and picked the cart up and put the wheel back, but I couldn't find the nut to put back on there, you know. Sometimes they would come off. And he said, "I ain't helping you find that nut." I said, "Well, come on." I said, "It's getting dark." I said, "If I don't find that nut, I can't. We can't drive this cart anywhere." He said, "Oh, okay." And he come back in. We finally found a nut and put on. I took him home. And then sometimes we'd drive old Babe in the cart in town. We get a lot of girls that way, you know, in a two-wheel cart and a horse. And Kenny Pierce over here, he'd go with us, and Dick Mix, so we'd all raised out there together. And Kenny's birthday is in July 22nd, the same year, and Dick Mix's birthday was March 24th the same year, and we'd always celebrate the birthdays together, you know. And, our moms had always fixed a big day of meal for us, and so we'd always celebrate that. And one year we were celebrating Dick Mix's birthday, and me and Kenneth were sitting together, and they had fried chicken and gravy and taters. And me and Kenny spilt the gravy. Ruined the whole meal. Whole big bowl of gravy we dumped out on the table. And never will forget that. And Dick's mother about had a spell. But got it cleaned up and still had the party.
Did you have any? Did you date any other girls before you met Grandma?
Oh yeah. We dated some in our senior year when we had the car. The Beatty girl, Doris Beatty, and she was a farm girl, and Virginia Hawkman, she was a farm girl, and took different things, and nothing serious, so. And
Was one of them your first kiss then?
Huh?
Was one of them your first kiss?
No, probably my first kiss was one of the Vale girls, because they lived down there, and they when we'd have thrashers, and Mom would have to cook a big dinner for about 15, 16 men. Why, the Vales girls and the Williams girls would, Joe's sister and Vales girls, well, they'd come and help Mother cook. And the first kiss was Dick Mix's sister, Irene. I used to think she was a queen, and I'd save my pennies and give to her. And of course, she was about a year older than I was. And after she started, I got a little bigger, but the big boys. So I lost my pennies too. But the Vales girls and the Williams girls, because they didn't have no sister, they just seemed like sisters, you know. I mean, we'd walk to school with them, and they'd help Mother and different things. And I always just kind of thought of them as my sisters. And, I'd tease them a lot, you know, stuff like that.
What about your friends growing up?
Well, most of them was ones we growed up with out here, and then ones we met in high school. Dickey boys we was close friends. They lived up north of town. They lived out in the country. And the Winky boys, they was their dad had a bunch of milk cows. They was all farm boys. And then some we met in town. Some of the ones we was friends. Bill Etchison, he was a good friend. And several of the boys we went to school with, Briscoe boys, used to play a lot of tricks on Weezer. Briscoe, you remember him, don't you? Your dad does. Yeah.
What type of tricks? What type of tricks?
All this little jokes and things. And he was a year ahead of me, Weezer was. We had ag together, and he's all the time pulling something on me. And so we'd grading seed corn. And of course, you grade it, you know, you have different screens, and you shake it off and get it graded. And we had it all graded, and he was he was showing the teacher what we'd accomplished, you know. And he was a little goosey, and he was showing the teacher, and nobody was looking, and I reached over and grabbed him, and he poured that corn up in the air all over the teacher and scattered all the and the teacher said, "Charles, what's the matter with you?" His name was Charles, we called him Weezer, nickname. He didn't say a word. We all had to pick the corn up. What happened years later, after I guess it's after we come back to serve it. No, it was when we was a senior. The FFA had charge of the parking out at the fair at the park. And the sheriff come around, the Illinois senator, doggies, I can't remember what his name was coming down that day to speak. And the sheriff come around and said, "Now don't you boys let anybody in that gate." Said the place is getting full. Said we ain't letting anybody else in. And so here comes the senator, big old nice limousine, you know, and they told him and his driver that they was to pull in that gate. And me and Weezer was at the gate. And Gubby said, the sheriff said, don't let nobody in. We said, sorry, sir, you cannot go in here. That's our orders. And he said, he was sitting in the back, the senator was. He said, well, we're supposed to speak here after a while. And we told him we didn't care a thing about that, but you can't come in this gate. And boy, he went out around over there and stopped. The sheriff was over there at the main building. And it wasn't just a little bit that we got relieved of our post. I said, Weezer, it's your fault, my boy. He said, you ought to know better than that. I said, I thought you knowed better. We got relieved. We didn't have to watch the gates no more. Yeah, I think after a while, I think who he was. He was an important guy. Big old limousine, and had a chauffeur and 2 or 3 guys with him. We wouldn't let him in the gate. Weezer finally said afterwards, he said, that's one way of getting out of that job, ain't it? Yeah, that's when we were still in high school. That must have been our junior year there. The FFA boys was taking care of us. We did.
What about growing up in the money situation?
There wasn't any. There wasn't no money.
How'd you guys get by? What was anything that you can remember? Special ways that you made it, or different things that you did?
No. Well, it didn't take too much money, but there wasn't any. We getting the show for a dime and get a big sack of popcorn for a nickel. And really, there for a long time, it wasn't a dime; it was 9 cents we get in with. And then you get a great big double dip ice cream for a nickel, homemade ice cream. So you get by on having a big night. They'd have the show, and then they'd have a cereal on the weekend, and get by on a quarter. And then first time I ever took anybody to the show was we got by that night on 50 cents. And it wasn't no money, but like I said before, you have a lot of fun. You don't have to have money to have fun back then. I don't know about now, but we good old days.
You're telling me you made your own games up?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Play hide and seek and different games. I forget now what we used to play a lot at school here. Black Man and Fox and Goose when it snowed, stuff like that. And made your own fun.
Now you
sometimes you get in trouble too. But.
You said you made a prison. You had your own prison, cops and robbers.
Oh yeah, we had the jailhouse.
Tell me about the jailhouse on the record.
After this is, of course, we played some for. They wasn't very big, but after I come back from service, where I think it was, maybe 13 and 10, something like that. And I had a little money then. I would buy those cap guns. Boy Rogers deal, you know, 2 guns and holsters and a cap gun, the good cap guns. I wish we'd have kept some of them now. They've been worth a lot of money. And we'd play cowboy and Indian and shoot them caps, you know, and have a big time. And, we had fixed the jail there in the shed. The sheriff would always lock somebody up in there. Of course, they'd always escape, you know, by crawling up the top and going out the top of the shed. And so John and I figured we'd pull one on Kenny, so he wasn't home that day, and he'd went somewhere with Mother up to Glenpool, I suppose, someplace, start of town or something. But anyway, we got some boards and nailed the top shut to the jailhouse. And he come home, and we'd got the chores done me and John had, and we was a-playing, and of course me and Kenny was going to be the outlaws, and John was going to be the sheriff. And so we had it made up that he'd catch Kenny and put in jail, and then we'd go in the house and quit. So that's what happened. He caught Kenny in the act of robbing the bank, and took him and locked him up, put him in the jailhouse and put the lock on the door, and then John went to the house, and I slipped around and went in there too. And, it was about dark. Dad come home, and Dad said, we getting ready for supper. Dad said, "Where's Kenny?" He said, "I heard an awful noise out there, somebody hollering and carrying on." John said, "Oh, he's in jail." And we went ahead. Well, Mom said, "Well, go get him out of jail so he can eat supper." John said, "No," said he'd got to pay his time, said he robbed the bank. We opened the back door, and he was hollering, "Help, help!" Dad said, "Go get him so we can eat supper." And we sat there eating supper, and I said, "Couldn't you get out of jail?" I said, "You escaped that the other day when we was playing." He said, "Who was the smart one that nailed the top on the jail?" John and me never said a word.
What was your favorite music growing up?
Oh, country music. Little Bell and Scotty, and what was his name? Arkansas Traveler. I can't think of too many of them. But nothing like you got now. That pop stuff, you can't understand any of it.
What'd you play music on? Did you have a phonograph or?
No, radio was about all we had. And, we had an old phonograph. We got one. I got it out there in the trailer. The one you wind up, like he's talking about there. And some of the records had some of the old favorites on. Mother had some favorites, and she'd play. It was quite a treat, you know. The radio was on a battery. We didn't have electricity until 37, and I was 10 years old. And we first got electricity down there. The REA come in from Fairfield. Well, that was an amazing thing. Bob and I'd sit and flip them lights on and off, you know. And I remember Dad of Ace and Kane, he said, "Quit that," said, "you wear that out." And then we got a radio. A lot of times our battery on the radio would, Dad always listened to Lomond Avenue and Amos and Andy and all those old comics, you know, and then the barn dance on Saturday night. And but a lot of times our battery would run down. But after we got electricity, well, we had man, we had a video all the time. And had a big, it was as big a case as what that TV's sitting on in. Had a speaker down the sides, and it was nice piece of furniture, you know. Big deal. And it was a field coat, if I remember right. And it was uptown, boy. We'd gather around that, listen, get our ear up close, you know. Something to, after we got electricity, it was quite different than the old, because the battery had these glass cell batteries. I don't know whether you've seen them or not. We used them on electric fence where you didn't have to, away from the, where you could plug in the regular fence charger. And it's according to how long you played them, they'd run down, and had no way to charge them up. You'd have to take them to town and get them charged. And that was quite a deal.
Now, did you ever get in any fist fights with other boys?
No, I never was much of a fighter. I was more a lover than I was a fighter. You see how I hug these girls now, don't you? We had a few. Got whipped a few times. And never did fight a whole lot. Now, Bob, he liked to fight. He'd rather fight than eat. We all walked to school now. The Vales family now, they lived there where Pete lives for a while. And then they lived back John's place there, where that piece that 40 acres that I bought off of the Strange heirs. There was a house back in the country, in the field, I mean. And we'd all get together and walk to school back and forth, you know. And Bob was always teasing the girls. He wasn't as close to the girls as I was, because a lot of them I didn't tease. I just we was coming home. We was south of the schoolhouse down there, going home, and we carried our dinner in a half a gallon syrup bucket, a tin bucket with a lid on it. You know, we put our dinner in that, and some of them had a handle, and some of them had a scrap on them. And Bob was always teasing this Doris Vale, which is just a little bit older than him. I think he liked her really, but I don't know. But he's always teasing her. And he'd pull some awful things on her. And so one day we was going home from school, and he was teasing her, and she had that half a gallon dinner pail on a little rope. It was about like a scrap on a purse. And he slipped up there behind and done something to her, pinched her or something. And she turned around and hit him with that half a gallon syrup bucket and knocked him out. He fell out in the ditch. I thought she'd killed him. Of course, I went to trying to get him up, you know, and there he was, this all. I said, "Hey, you guys, come in and help me." I said, "You've killed him." And Doris, she mumbled something, said, "I hope so." And pretty soon, he began to come out of it. He sat there on the bank of the ditch for a long time, and I said, "Well, we better go home, hadn't we?" He said, "Okay." He got up, and I said to him, I said, "I don't think you ought to done that, had you?" He said, "I don't think I will again." Well, she knocked him out cold as a cucumber.
So, how did you get the land where Dad's house is on? Right.
Bob and I bought that in the fall of 47. I got out of the hospital and the service in October. And we bought that in the fall of 43 acres there, 47, and he bought half of it and I bought half of it, and then I bought him out in I forget what year it was. It took me a good while to after we was married to buy his half out, and I met Jenny in February of 48, and we went together that spring and that summer, and I asked her to marry me one night. We was out the park to a party of some kind. I forget now whose it was or what was it, but anyway, we'd go around the lake there. You could drive around the lake and go out the back door there. There was a gate there that was open to, and we go around there, and it's a pretty, that's where.
Yeah. Okay, so you were proposing and you went out by the lake.
Yeah, and I pulled off there by the lake, but there was a place where they had a place to cook and tables and stuff there. I pulled off there, and we talked a while, and I proposed to Jenny there by the lake. And she said yes. And I said, whoopee. And I had already bought a ring, and I didn't know what I was going to do with it if she just said no, you know. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I gave her the ring. And so then that was in probably, I met her in February, and that was probably sometime in May I met her. So we planned then to get married in the fall. And so the house down there, Harold Cox and his wife was living there. I'd rented it to them, and they was living there. And so I told them that they need to move because we were going to get married. And then all that summer we worked on the house, fixing it up and wallpapering it and doing everything. There was 2 bedrooms and a living room and a kitchen and a pantry and a back porch. And then behind and the well set right by, you know where the well is at. The house set right in front of the well, and then there was a summer kitchen that set right behind the well. And so we worked on that, fixing it up, and then we got married on all summer there. We worked on that, and we got married on the 10th of September in 1948 at the Christian church, and the Christian preacher, P.A. Willis, married us, and Jimmy Richardson and Doris Galbert. Jimmy was one of my best friends, and Doris was one of Jeannie's best friends. So they stood up with us, and we got married there in the Christian church. At 4 o'clock on September the 10th, 1948. And I got up here past Birch going in for the wedding, and I forgot the ring. So I had to go back home to get the ring. And somebody asked me one time if I ever forgot anything that was important. I said, yeah, that was the main thing that I forgot was important. And so then we didn't have no honeymoon. This was September the 10th, the beans was getting ripe, and so we had a honeymoon down there. I carried her across the threshold, and we spent our honeymoon there. This was on a Friday night now.
Okay, this is gonna stop here. So.